Just like in the kitchen, two chefs, same dish, completely different feel. Enrique's going to show us how two musicians can play two chords that are the same on paper, but have a totally different feel. So you're going to want to stick around this whole video so that you can understand how you're going to spice up your own chords.
These extra notes are called tensions or upper structures, and I like to compare them to spices. Okay, we have the fundamental parts of a chord, the root, the third and the fifth, and then you have spices. You have all these extra upper structures or tensions, and some have a very strong taste and it can ruin a dish. Others are really mild and you can just use in abundance and there's no issue. So we're gonna learn which ones can you use and how to balance them to create a unique, beautiful dish. If you often get confused by chord symbols and why they have all those numbers, I just wanted to clarify that normally if you see a ninth means the second note of the scale, a 13th means the sixth note of the scale, an 11th means the fourth note of the scale.
So Enrique, why not seconds, fourths, sixths?
The history of how this note started to be used is based on tertian harmony, meaning harmony that's based over thirds. So you have the root, the third, the fifth, the seventh, and then after that the numbers start to get larger, 9th, 11th. Those are notes that normally are placed on the top register also in chords. We don't like to use spices right in the bottom of the piano or your instrument. You like to have them on the top. So let's start. We're gonna call our main chord X because it doesn't matter which chord it is, okay? If we have an X that is major, like a major seventh is like pepper. You can use it, I put pepper in everything, not a problem, you know? Like the sixth has a sweet flavor. I'm gonna play, like, the sixth has this gorgeous, like, old school flavor. The major seventh has a vanilla kind of like sweet taste. The ninth, feels like bossa nova, you know? It's almost like a little cinnamon thing. The sharp 11, that note on top, I'm adding all of them together. Like that's already a strong taste, like little coriander or something. And now the sharp 5 is a little more spicy. Ooh. You can't use it all the time. You know, it has too strong of a taste.
Like cayenne.
You know? Yeah. And some people like to use the fourth, like.
I love it.
Like but then the orchestration matters. For this more complex chords, you need to be careful where you're putting those notes. We're going to talk about that later.
All right, let's move to the minor chord. So one of the first ones would be the flat 7 or the minor 7th.
The major 7th on minor chords, I would use it with a certain parsimony. You know, it's a strong taste. I call it the Sex and the City chord because at the end of the, you know, main theme, you hear like there's a little bit of that kind of augmented sound.
And then you know it's on. The 6th.
Yeah. The 9th.
All right, and now the 11th. Yeah.
Herbie uses that a lot. Chords that are full of notes. So I'm orchestrating all this already, but those are the notes that I'm using. I'm just distributing them a little differently. And depending on your instrument, we're going to talk about instruments a little later. There's a new way of doing it.
Let's get into one of the busiest ones possible, which is the dominant 7.
So for dominant chords, you have many possibilities because dominant chords are, in essence, chords that carry a lot of tension. So any combinations of spices kind of can work depending on the context. So we have a flat 7 already, the minor 7. We can add 3 types of 9: flat, or major, or sharp. Normally you use flat 9 if you're going to a minor chord. You can use sharp 9 if you want to get a little funky taste. Okay,
it's like it's like my fish sauce.
And the major ninth is like vanilla. Very sweet, early jazz, has more of that taste. So if you want to sound more like an early jazz pianist or guitarist, whatever, you should use that. Okay? We have two options for 13th. Flat 13th, very dramatic, or major. You hear a lot of that in bossa nova too. 13, becoming a flat 13th. You can add the sharp 11th. Woo! So the sharp 11th, it's such a weird taste that you normally have to play other notes as well. I like to add a flat 9 with it. So any combinations of those, for example, I can add a sharp 9th and a 13th. Really spicy. Maybe I can add flat 13th and flat 9th. So there's so many options. That's why this becomes part of your unique, authentic voice. There's not one fits all formula.
And there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer. It's really your personal taste. All right, half diminished. Let's talk about it.
One of the most common mistakes people forget that on half diminished, we normally add major ninth, not flat ninth, although there are cases where the flat nine is played, but most cases, the major ninth. I can add the 11th, the first chord of Stella by Starlight. And when it comes to 13th, it's very rare in half diminished chords, but if you hear, it's normally the flat 13th.
All right, just two chords to go. Henrique, the sus chord.
The sus chord is a chord in which the third note has been suspended. It became the fourth note. So it's a suspended chord. You can add the 7th. You can add the 9th. The 9th can be flat. It creates a little Phrygian chord. Is that how they call Phrygian chord? You can also add a 13th. Beautiful chord.
This chord's almost a chameleon.
Yeah. And you can have even a third on top, which is kind of weird, but it works really well. Okay.
And last but not least,
We get to diminished chords. Diminished chords are the awkward ones because a diminished scale has 8 notes. So it's start to become hard to name all the tensions. And you normally don't see diminished chords with so many tensions added because it's already by itself such a tense chord. But if I had to write down what they are, it's a diminished 7. So I added like 2 flats just as a reminder. It's a diminished 7. You can also add the major 7. This sounds a little bit like the Stravinsky Rite of Spring chord. I can add the 9th. I can add the 11th and flat 13th. Those are basically all the notes from the diminished scale played together. Okay, I wouldn't be too concerned about the diminished chords. I hate diminished chords.
everybody knows Henrique's got a war against diminished chords.
But diminished chords with dominant function as the 7th scale degree are not used anymore. We use diminished chords in different contexts as substitutes for dominance, but not with dominant function as a 7th degree. Very important to remember.
We're going to keep fighting the good fight here at Jazz Lab. So now we have a sense of what's on his spice rack. So Henrique, what do we do with this?
On the piano, you should always keep the basic notes on your left hand or in the bottom and the spices always on top. Prioritize always root, thirds and sevenths on your left hand and then all the spices on your right hand. But with one thing in mind, the melody matters a lot.
If you're like me and you play a non-chordal instrument, you may be wondering, how do I use spices in my playing? And we can do it too. But it comes down to great voice leading and great playing of melodies. We're always going to have a direction for our tensions. Unless you're playing in like a John Coltrane Sheets of Sound style, and which I absolutely don't as a trombone player. I play quite slow. I'm going to have to make sure that if I'm playing a tension note, that it's directed towards another note. Non-chordal instruments usually use these tensions to resolve into a note that is more of the chord.
Yeah. So you have to be aware of the melody. If the melody is outlining a ninth, for example, or you don't want to add a flat ninth to your chord, it's going to clash, So you have to be aware about the melody. For guitar players, I recommend always also, playing the bass note and then third and seventh on the middle strings, and then normally adding 2 tensions on the top strings. And it's kind of you'll learn some shapes that can help with that. And you can create your own and experiment a little bit with that. But the principle is root, thirds, and seventh in the world of jazz are the most important notes to create your basic seasoning, and then you come up with all the other spices. And they're normally always on top, unless you're like Gil Evans and you invert everything and break all the rules and sound amazing.
And if you'd like deeper dives just like this, you should sign up for our newsletter. Click the link in the description and you can find free ebooks and a lot of our teaching, and sign up for a newsletter where we'll be announcing master classes and workshops throughout the year.
Thank you, everybody. Go practice and see you soon.